Well, Ashonda, I guess I should say congratulations, right? New
Right.
author. Look at the big smile. I I want to do an interview with you and spend the next few minutes kind of going into who you are, talking about your message, talking about how you maintain all of these things that you do as far as focus and attention. But first of all, let's just say congratulations for getting published.
Thank you so much. I'm excited.
Yes. So tell me, I think you mentioned this somewhere along the way when you've been going through this process. Um, did you feel surreal anywhere along the way?
um, I think, and we hear this all the time, but I think I literally had to pinch myself. I mean, it was
Right.
like, is this really happening?
Right. And somewhere along the way, did you do like a happy dance or something like that when you?
I did. As a matter of fact, I literally ran from downstairs. I ran down to the first level, and my daughter, I think I was yelling so much but I was just happy
Sure.
that it scared her. She came out the room. She thought something was wrong, and I thought, no, 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 my book is published. It's out there. And she was just
Right.
like, oh, okay, you scared me,
Right. So,
but I was excited.
oh, absolutely. Because I mean, tell me how long you have been thinking about the idea of becoming published.
Since 2012.
2012. Okay, and tell me the story behind that and how that came into your mind.
So I thought about it maybe a couple months prior to, but I was laid off April 12th of 2012.
Hmm.
And on my way home, well, first, when I was told, the first thought wasn't really about me. It was about the fact that I was among 700 other people. And
Oh,
so we found out, who it was in my department. And so I really didn't focus on myself. I ran around talking to other people who were being laid off and making sure, are you okay?
right.
Going to get through this, just trying to encourage them. Because some were, a bit broken, but I was trying to encourage everyone else. But on my way home, I was on the train and I started jotting down just kind of the things that had transpired a couple months prior up until that day. And I really thought about, I've gone through a lot in my life, and it's probably time for me to start writing about it. And I really thought I'd be published much sooner than now, but
Right.
life
Yes.
happens. But that's when it started. That's on the train, April 12th,
So that's where
2000.
the seed or the inspiration actually started germinating, if you will. And a lot of times, if you use that analogy, it has to grow down first before it actually grows up and then
Yes,
blossoms.
yes,
So it started growing down and getting some roots in
yes.
2012. You started writing notes, but the inspiration was there. But tell me, where did you get this leadership quality? Because I mean, come on, everybody watching this interview right now is going to say, well, if I just got laid off, I would be either in my office crying, putting my stuff together, or I would be throwing stuff in my office because I'm mad, right? Because those are the two usual reactions: is poor me, or I'm angry because someone didn't do me right. So I'm going to feel whatever, anger, pity, all. Where did you get this? Let's take care of other people first.
I want to say that it was probably just from growing up and always being the person on the outside. I never really fit in. And so at some point in my life, during one of the, and I actually, now that I'm thinking about it, during there was a meeting in one of my former roles, and there were hundreds of people in this room.
Hmm.
And I remembered I always would go to that table that no one was sitting at, and I would just sit there and wait. But I remember looking across the room and seeing someone else sitting at a table by themselves. And I
Right.
thought, Shonda, this is just not, this is not how it's supposed to be. You need to get out of your comfort zone. And
Right.
so I determined and went to the other side of the room and introduced myself. And then they introduced themselves, and I just started a conversation. And I thought, oh my goodness, this wasn't as hard as I thought it would be. And
Right.
so I think that was really the part of saying, I can be that person that steps out and helps somebody else to come out of their shell.
Sure.
And when I realized that actually there was some authoritative voice came out that I had never heard before, even when I started talking to this person. So I want to say that probably was where it started.
Wow. So I'm recognizing this as you're talking about, a lot of people talk about the misnomer in the concept of courage, because it took courage for you to get outside of where you were at your table, comfy by yourself, not having to do anything extra, and no one would have fault you for continuing that same pattern. A lot of people do that, but something inside of you inspired you, and didn't just inspire you, but inspired you enough to change your action, to change your habit. And that was the first time you changed it. And then it became something that you all of a sudden realized, hey, the other person didn't bite me. And by the way, this interaction created a great relationship. They felt better. I felt better. And so a lot of people call courage fearlessness. And I think it's a total misunderstanding. Courage is not fearlessness. It is right action despite fear. That's what you did.
Yes, that's exactly what I did.
So how has this continued now to this day? Here you are now, an author, pinching yourself, scaring the heck out of your daughter. But you have become a person of authority now as an author. You've been seen on ABC, NBC, CBS, and Fox, and other channels on top of that. Show me your book, by the way. I should have done that from the very beginning.
Okay, here it is.
Look at that. Absolutely. How cool. How cool is that? So now, the first time you got your book and you actually held it in your hand, what transpired here?
I literally was just like, oh my God.
Right.
I'm feeling like,
right.
I'm no longer looking at shelves of other, in every store. If I ever went to the book section,
Sure.
I always looked there and said, one day I'm going to be a published author.
Wow.
And so while it's not in the physical store, it is on Amazon.
Right.
But I kept saying that. And I think that that's the other thing. You have to believe it. No matter what the trial, what the challenge you face, if you believe and stand on what you believe that's going to happen, it will.
You manifested it. Absolutely.
It did. I mean, I walked by faith. It was truly by faith. I just kept pointing and saying, you know what? I'm going to be a published author one day. I am going to do this.
There you go.
Here I am.
And you brought it into reality. So this is extraordinary. So what I'd love to do here for a second is can I share my screen? And I want to show off the website and some of the other stuff that you have put together. It looks super professional. So hang on a second. How does that look? Can you see? This is your author website, right?
Yes.
There you go. So here you are, super professional. I love that you've been seen in all the major media outlets right here. And let's talk about, your, what I would call your main thought or your idea that is part of your message that you're delivering in your book. Success is moving towards your yes when everyone else is running in the opposite direction because they received a no. That's falling right in line with what we're talking about here. Your courage to act despite fear. So, I guess I'm going to have to ask a question again. Maybe it's a little deeper question, is how did you learn to become this person that's obviously a leader, that has that leadership mentality, that has that personal inspiration, the discipline even to do what everyone else is doing and to go against everyone else? So that makes you a contrarian right out of the box. Most people, contrarians scare people because they're not doing what everyone else is doing. So how did you find that faith inside to do what no one else likes to do?
Well, at one other point in time in my life, I used to be in sales and I went door to door. Now that takes a lot of courage to go door to door and ask someone to make a purchase for something that they probably weren't planning to make, and may not even have the finances. So I used to do rendition fragrances. And so I went door to door, colleges, street, you name it. And there was a group of us. Now, part of this came from not being employed. And so sometimes even what they would consider bad thing that happened in your life, it can actually push you if you take that push and say, you know what, I can do something. And so even going door to door, it lent itself to me actually opening up a distribution center. And
Wow.
so it started with door to door, then opening a small office, and then soliciting to others to open their small offices. And so then as I began to grow and had 10 people, now I was able to have what they call distribution center. It was scary.
Yeah, absolutely.
It was very scary. But sometimes if you can, fear can do one or two things. It can either have you, draw up and go into a shell and like a
Sure.
turtle and just kind of hide,
Yeah.
or it can force you to become someone that you always are or were in the inside, and make
Exactly.
that thing actually come out. And so I think that that's what took place at that particular point in time in my life. And I think over time, you just begin to realize that I'm either going to do it or I'm not. But
Right.
I had faith in myself that I can.
Absolutely. So I'm gonna jump back here, and you're inspiring me with some of the other things that I've seen in your website. So I want to come back and touch on some of these other things and talk about. I love this quote right here that I had seen earlier. Failures are just wrinkles. Pull out your iron and dream, push, drive, and persist all the way. So I want to come back to this, but I wanted to jump down here because this individual here, Roche, which is someone that actually wrote a testimonial about you and how she'd known you. This is something similar that you inspired her with the fact that you had become a leader, you had taken risks, you had done those hard things, and now you were passing the baton to someone who has, your inspiration has changed her life. Tell me about her.
Rashe, I really, at this particular time, I hadn't actually known Rashe for that very long.
Okay.
And she, when I even asked her, hey, if I've ever inspired you, what would you say? I mean,
Right.
and when she did it with ease, I mean, literally within a couple minutes.
Wow.
And that really meant that she had been thinking about the conversations that we were having. And at the time, I was introducing her to a different business opportunity. And so
Sure.
it was really at that point that our relationship actually began to grow.
Wow.
And just sharing that, we don't have to settle for where we are right now.
Mm-hmm.
And she took that. And
Mm-hmm.
now, even now, she's pursuing what she wants in life.
Outstanding. That's outstanding. And I love it when, people have the opportunity to inspire and then they pass the baton and then that person starts inspiring someone else. You've actually got on your website here, I noticed, by the way, that you can actually get a chapter downloaded. So if someone comes to your website, Beyond Success with LaShondaMcMorris.com, they can click on this link right here and it lets them download a chapter. How cool is that? So it's kind of like a free peek, right? Everybody gets a chance to see. Yeah. So I wanted to come back to this because I love the mentality that you're using here. I don't know if I forgot the difference between a metaphor and an analogy. This is one of those, okay, where you're taking failures or setbacks and you have redefined them instead of a big monster that everyone is afraid of. And therefore, if I fail again, the monster is going to eat me, or someone's going to look at me odd, or make me sit at the end of the lunch table by myself, like we were all afraid of once upon a time in school, right? You redefine it, which is so cool. And you redefine it as something called wrinkles. So where did you get this idea from?
I actually got it by balling up a piece of paper. I think I was working on something, and then, it was like, oh, that's just, that's not going to work or something like that. But anyway, I took the piece of paper and I balled it up.
Right.
And then there was something I had written on the piece of paper that I thought, oh, wait a minute, I need that piece. And so I, straightened it out.
Sure.
It really hit me that, man, failure is just a wrinkle. It really is just, it's like you're going through life and it's kind of like a bump. And
Mm-hmm.
so all I have to do is push through it, iron it, push, drive, go, keep going.
Mm-hmm.
Don't back up, keep
Right.
going.
So by you redefining this, you have now created I guess they call psychological, they call it gestalts or anchors, where you have figured out how you've taught yourself a new way to think about scary stuff. You know,
Yes.
because most people, if they fail one time, then they live their entire rest of their life holding their breath underwater, afraid to fail again. And instead, you're like, no, failures, they're just wrinkles. They happen. You know, that's life. And what do? Well, if you redefine it properly, and you don't make it this big onerous thing that's impossible to scale,
Mhm.
what you did is you redefine it. And you said, oh, there's something that I wadded up, and then I just work on it, work it through, and we just go over. So you have made those things in life that most people fear, nearly with the fear of death, as something that's easy to be worked through with persistence and a little innovative thinking. Cool.
Yes. And actually with time and patience. And
Hmm.
it's really taking the opportunity, taking a step back and saying, okay, wait, how can
Hmm.
I look at this a little bit different?
That's it. You're right. Look at things different. So now, wow, I look at my busy life, and then I look at all the things that you do, and I go, okay, you're smoking me. Okay, so you are doing so many things: communicator, minister, mentor, empowerment coach, and obviously we want to add to that, author.
Yes.
So tell me, how do you manage your life doing so many great things? And obviously, you're a leader, so that means that you're constantly interacting with other people that you are helping, other leaders that you're growing, other people that are interested in who you are and how you do. You know, I would say you're like a Wonder Woman. You can do so many fantastic things. You're a superhero. How do you manage all this?
Actually, first of all, through God.
Hmm.
I have to ask for wisdom every day.
Hmm.
Um, and then through time management.
Mm, okay. Time management. Okay. Any particular ideas or tweaks there that you do that are your like super secrets that allow you to be that super, like, you know, if you show me you have bracelets, you know, where you can put the bracelets together, then I want to say, okay, you got something that's outstanding. But you know, I just love to see how much you do and how well you stay organized.
I'll be honest, I encourage myself. I have to laugh a lot. When I see negativity or just challenges that I face, I literally sometimes just look at it and I'll just fall out laughing
Hmm.
because it's a barrier. It looks like a block, but it's really not. All I
Mm,
have to do is take a step back and say, okay, how can I get over that without getting scarred, without doing anything wrong or illegal? You know,
sure.
how can I get through that?
Sure.
Um, Whether I use Google, whatever it is, talking to someone, looking at my mentor, or just getting feedback, whatever it is, that's what I have to do. And so now I literally fall out laughing.
Wow. Okay. So I mean, that actually is one of your whole redefining of failures as wrinkles. And so what you're seeing as an obstacle that sits in front of you, you back up. Obviously, you're taking a breath in that, but you have a whole process here that you're sharing, and then you laugh at it. And by laughing at it, you change again the whole emotional content.
Yes.
Okay, so most people would fall into tears, or again, go back to that anger position, like when you were a part of that huge layoff early on in your career,
Mhm.
700 people, you know, and you had an entirely different and totally unique response. You chose to react as opposed to most, no, excuse me, you responded. Most
Yes.
people react.
Mhm.
Okay. And the reaction would have been the fall apart and cry, or the get angry and throw stuff and get
Mhm.
mad and, you know, swear revenge. And you chose the total opposite, which is, how do we make sure everybody else is okay? And then
Yes.
how do I take this event and become the seed point for this new position that I'm going to, where I'm going to be able to help even more people?
Exactly. And I mean, especially when you're going through a layoff, some of the things that people do, and that is, well, I'm not doing any more work, I'm not going back to work, etc. And
Sure.
I did my job every day until the day. Matter of fact, I think I was the last person to leave, even my last day, making sure that
Wow.
everything was in place and everything was being transitioned properly. So I think that's
Bravo.
that's important. I mean,
It's
Things
it's
happen.
it's everything. No, it's important, more than important. It's everything because I remember my dad taught me this, growing up. He was Marine, so he was constantly basically taking me through the Marine Corps. And I remember him telling me a quote from the Marine Corps is that, let's see if I can remember it correctly, is it was about ethics. It was about doing right things. But it was about doing the right thing even when no one's watching.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what you did. I mean, everybody else just said, well, if I'm getting laid off, I'm just not going to show up at work. You continued all the way to the end to make sure your environment was totally as it was supposed to be.
Yes.
And so you are a person of character,
Yes.
which is rare. And I guess you are now passing that baton. You mentioned your daughter earlier, so I'm sure that's being passed on to her as well. Yes,
Yes.
absolutely. So I wanted to share one other thing here because this is just so cool to see. Your success, and this is actually the book again, but I wanted to show on here, just the fact you're an author, you're super articulate, so obviously you're a speaker as well. You're an empowerment coach. uh, I am I have grown so much just getting to know you and the time we've been around and just hearing your comments and your feedback and the discussions we've had. So first of all, thank you for sharing that with me. um, what do you plan to do from now on? I mean, you have now, achieved and got to a mountaintop and become an author, and now you're seen on major news and media networks. Here's your website. You have a free chapter. You're so set up. It looks so great. What are you doing from here on out? Tell me what the future looks like.
Actually, Steve, the future is bright. I am actually in the process of scheduling another event in which I, just talk about the other business opportunities that I'm a part of to help
Sure.
other people who, just think that it's impossible to get started with their own business or doing something to create residual income,
Sure.
and they think that they have to have a lot of money, and they really
Right.
don't.
Sure.
So I'm working on that as well as another book. So
Oh, wow. Okay. So you're just keeping yourself busy. You're not going to slow down at all. You're not going to take a vacation.
no, I'm not.
Okay,
No.
a lot of things to do. So, what drives you? This type of, I mean, I know we've been working together for months, and I remember even you ended up in the hospital somewhere along the way, and you were
Mhm.
texting me from the hospital bed, and it might have even been the emergency room, and there was some type of deadline that you were concerned about. I'm like, no, it's going to be okay. I'll get that taken care of, and you're focusing on that while you're in the hospital.
Yes. I first of all, I had to be at, I was at a place where, I wasn't in, severe pain at that time. But I do keep in mind the things that I have an obligation to. And
Sure.
so if I'm obligated to do something, whether if I can't get the message, I'll get it through somebody else to say, hey,
Wow.
can you please make sure that this person knows that, you know, I was supposed to do X, Y, Z or whatever it was. I think I was even scheduled to do something that Saturday and I had to, cancel. But if there's something on my calendar and, it's important and,
Wow.
I'm going to make sure that whoever it is, that they get the message of whether or not I'm going to be able to attend. So I just think
That's
it's important just to make sure that
sure.
if you're able to, I mean, and at that
Sure.
point I was in the hospital, but I made sure that everyone knew.
Well, that,
Get the person.
again, is one of those qualities of a leader that is so rare. And people, so many times are asking me or Matt or some of the other people that we work with, what are the distinguishing qualities? And they expect, I think, sometime for us to pull a moon rock out or give them some type of Martian, you know, ancient answer or something in the future that no one's heard of before. And I'm like, no, it's discipline, it's communication, it's responsibility. And they're like, oh no, those aren't cool words. My grandmother used to tell me about that, or I've heard that from, like, in my case, my dad, because he was a Marine, so I've heard those words. Nah, I don't want to hear that. I want to hear something that's not exciting, but it's necessary.
Yes.
And so you do that at an extraordinary level. So anyway, I know you've got more things to do. Thank you for getting this interview into your day. And I wish you so much success, and I want to come back in the future, maybe a couple months from now, because I know that you having your book, as you're doing your book launch and you're doing other things along the way, that I guess the one thing I got to ask too, I know I'm running out of time, but what is the thing that has either been the most unexpected response from someone once you became an author that found out about it, or maybe the most unexpected thing that you didn't see coming as an author?
I didn't see jealousy.
Whoa, really?
Really. Yeah.
Wow.
There was some that were very excited, but jealousy didn't, that was not the thing that I thought I would see.
Well, you see, it's got me amazed too, because I'm like, wow, because I'm
You're
always,
probably like, really?
I'm like, wow, really? Yeah.
Yeah, no, seriously, yes. To the
Haters.
degree of not speaking to me anymore, like literally shared that I was an author here, hey, just sharing with you. And now conversations were every week, and now
Gone.
gone. Like,
Wow. Wow. Okay. So
so,
that is, and I've done a lot of interviews, and I don't know if I've particularly caught that, or maybe I haven't asked that particular question. Maybe I should start asking it now. But it caught me off guard, only because I remember, and maybe it's the people that you share your because I remember when my book was getting published, and there were so many people that I was posting, hey, here's the cover of my book, and then even when I got my first book and I'm opening it up, and then I had a video, you might have seen it.
yeah.
And I worked for a publishing company, and when I was getting published, it was a whole new different experience actually holding my book in my hand. And obviously you're excited because it's such an accomplishment. There's a feeling of beyond enthusiasm. It's like you're pinching yourself like, oh my gosh, I am an author. And I've always been that person where I'm so excited to see other people achieve.
Yes.
I don't care if it's a small achievement, if someone, fixes a habit that makes their life better, or they make some monumental achievement. I'm always the person that, is so excited because, someone gets the new house, or they get the cool car, or they get to go on a great vacation, or their life moves to a new level. One of my really good friends that's in my Rubicon training system, he just got married, on Saturday. I see it on Facebook, and I was so excited. The guy, he is a programmer at Amazon, and just a fairy tale story that he is creating on the fly. I love to see people do that.
I tell you, Steve, I am truly a person that celebrates any accomplishment, anything that you have done, or have a barrier that you've ever been able to overcome. I celebrate you. And
Right.
So you asked the question, and that was the one shocking thing. Like,
Wow.
I did not see that coming. However, it did not deter me from continuing to move on.
Sure. Sure.
Things will happen, and people will be people, I guess.
Yeah,
But
for sure.
I'm gonna move on, and hey, I support everyone. I mean, I love to see growth in others. I really thrive on that. I love to see people grow. So, and move from a place of stagnation to a place of thriving. So, that's just me. I'm not changing.
Keep doing what you're doing, because you're doing so awesome. And I appreciate your time. And again, wish you all the success, and wish you just more good people reading your book and getting inspiration from it. Absolutely.
Thank you.
So you take care.
Thank you so much. Bye-bye.
Talk to you soon. Okay.